What is the most expensive bottle of bourbon ever sold? Let's find out. What is going on, everybody? Nathan here with the Everyday Drinker, bringing you guys a brand new video. Now, are you interested to find out what the most expensive bottle of bourbon ever sold was? Well, I know I am. I was scrolling through Facebook the other day, and this little article popped up that said the 25 most expensive bottles of bourbons in the world. And I was really intrigued by that, and I figured, you know what? Let's do this and scroll through this article together, and let's find out what the most expensive bottle of bourbon ever sold was together. Now, for me, I think it might be a Michter's. I know a lot of you out there might be thinking it's a Pappy or maybe a Willard or something along those lines. So let me know down in the comments below what you think the most expensive bottle of bourbon ever sold was. But we've got the top 25 here. We're going to see what the 25 was, the 15, and then the two honorable mentions at 12 and 11. And then we're going to go right to the top 10. If you guys enjoy this kind of a video, make sure you drop that like, leave that comment down below on what you think the most expensive bottle of bourbon is, and smash that subscribe button. But let's get into the video. All right, so the 25 most expensive bourbons in the world. This was 2024, so it does not include anything for 2025 yet. But here we go. Number 25 is a Johnny Fitzgerald Very Special Reserve 20-year-old straight bourbon whiskey. It was proofed at 90 proof, and it's the price around $64.93. Now, that's really interesting. It's not even your traditional Fitzgerald bottle either. This had to be something from a little bit ago with that bottle shape, because it doesn't have the decanter on there. And then let's go and find what number 20 was. Number 20. Okay, number 20, we had a Willett Family Estate bottled single barrel 18-year-old straight bourbon whiskey. This was $8,748. So this had to be one of those older Willett distillate bottles, because everybody talks about how the older Willets are so much better than the newer Willets. And you know what? It is what it is. Some people have those opinions, and they're allowed to have them. All right, number 15, Michter's 25-year-old single barrel bourbon whiskey. So this is what I was thinking was probably in the top like 5, and it's not even in the top 10. So we got a Michter's 25-year. Average price is at about $10,126, and your alcohol content is 58.1. I'm not doing the math right now, everybody. I'm sorry. All right, so number 12. All right, so here's where we're getting to the big daddies, right? Number 12, we've got an Eagle Rare Double Eagle Very Rare 20-year-old. This is average price of about $10,564, 90 proof, but you're getting 20-year-old Buffalo Trace, right? Everybody wants that, and that's why this bad boy right here is so darn high in that price. All right, number 11. Let's scroll down a little bit here. We're getting that Brown-Forman King of Kentucky. This is a single barrel 18-year-old straight bourbon. This was valued at $11,143. Alcohol content is 65.55. Now, a lot of you guys are saying this is not what MSRP of these bottles are. No, this is not what MSRP is. What we're looking at is what some of these bottles sold at for on auction or on secondaries and things along those lines. And what people are willing to shell out for these bottles is what these the average prices of these bottles are going for. That's what this price is. All right, let's get into our top 10. Now, number 10, we're looking at a Weller Antique Reserve 10-year-old straight bourbon whiskey. This was what I'm reading here for the most part. Any existing bottles of Weller Antique Reserve were produced in the late 50s and 60s at the Stitzel Weller Distillery under the direction of Julian Pappy Van Winkle. Any such bottle from that time is a true relic of bourbon history. Now, this bad boy right here is going for anywhere from $12,358. Does have a proof of 110, which is nice. But yeah, man, that's insane. Old Weller Antique Reserve from the 50s and 60s is going for almost $12,500. That's nuts. If you guys want to help support this channel like you wouldn't believe, you got to do it through the Patreon. Check the link out down below for the Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, you help support me like you wouldn't believe. You get entered into barrel picks. You get automatically entered into the free sample giveaways that we do. The bottle raffles, you're entered into those as well, with dependent on your tier. It's a fun time. We got a great Discord, and that is where you can really help me out with the channel like you wouldn't believe. So check that link out down below for the Patreon. But let's get back into the video. Number 9, we're looking at a Hirsch Reserve 15-year-old pot still. Now, this was in 1974, a bounty of whiskey from a small distillery in Pennsylvania was sold after it was decommissioned, and a large portion of the barrels were sent to Kentucky for further aging. 15 years later, Adolf Hirsch discovered the batch, and after realizing its incredible quality, he purchased roughly 400 barrels and bottled them under his own name. And so, the world got Hirsch Reserve 15-year-old pot still, which is technically a Pennsylvania bourbon, despite being aged and bottled in Kentucky. Now, this is one of those sourced whiskey kind of a things right here for Hirsch, but this is average price is $16,024 with an alcohol content of 47.8. You guys do the math, like I keep saying. But here we go. All right, number 8, we've got the Last Drop 1980 Buffalo Trace Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is nuts. Hailing from the Buffalo Trace Distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky, the Last Drop 1980 was distilled in, you guessed it, 1980. By then, master distiller Gary Gayhart. Years later, the recipe was uncovered by current master distiller Harlan Wheatley, who then aged the spirit for about 20 years before releasing just 240 bottles for sale. Now, I do believe there were a couple of reviews of this bottle on YouTube. Really interesting. This was 20 years, and then it sat in a vat for another 20 years. So it doesn't really age in that vat. It just sits in limbo. But what you're getting is that true flavor of what that bourbon tasted like from 1980, which is really cool. Average price of $16,209 with a proof of 90, which is really cool. This is where, okay, this is an interesting one that I was not expecting to see in the top 10 whatsoever. We got Colonel E.H. Taylor Old Fashioned Sour Mash. This was distilled in 2002 as an homage to Edmund Haynes Taylor Jr., who was widely known to have used the sour mash process in the 1800s when he was distilling. And we're looking at average price of nearly $19,600. And this is only a 100 proof bottle because, well, as you guessed it, most E.H. Taylors are bottled in bond, and that's exactly what this bottle is. Now, we don't know a specific age of this, but it has to be at least 4 years old and proofed at 100 proof. So that's really interesting. All right, now we're getting into the top 6 here, and we're looking at one of our first Van Winkle. So we've got an old Rip Van Winkle, handmade, family reserve, 16-year-old. Now this, originally cast in 1974, this whiskey is rumored to have originated at the Boone Distillery in Boone County, Kentucky. 2 versions of it exist today. This expression that was bottled in 1990 at 16 years and another bottled in 1991 at 17 years. Both iterations actually replicated Maker's Mark iconic melted wax topper, which Van Winkle claims he got away with using due to trademark only being registered in the U.S. So this had to be sold, I guess, out of the country to be able to use that red wax that Maker's Mark uses, because they do have that trademark on that and nobody else can use it. But I guess that is only available for them to use in the United States. Now, this was priced at almost $20,000 with a proof of 101 proof. Really cool bottle. Not a lot of these exist. I actually saw one of these on a secondary market going for, I think, almost like $24,000. I don't know if anybody bid on that or not. But here we go. Number 5, our top 5 most expensive bottles. We're looking at an Old Rip Van Winkle, Pappy Van Winkle, family reserve, 17-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is the aforementioned 1991 release of the Boone Distillate, the one that was just we talked about in number 6. Both the releases were initially intended for the Japanese market, like I said, out of the country, as Americans weren't as keen on paying premium prices for aged bourbon at the time. So this one, a year older, we're looking at almost $22,700 and the same proof point of 101 proof. All right, number 4. This is probably the one that I was thinking was going to be number 1 right here, the Michter's Celebration Sour Mash Whiskey. So a lot of you guys that said Pappy, it's probably going to be our number 1. But in the 1970s and 1980s, Sour Mash Whiskey was Michter's top-selling product. After being discontinued in 1989, the brand relaunched the product in 2012 as Michter's Celebration Sour Mash. The whiskey was produced by Michter's master distiller, Willie Pratt, who blended all of Michter's best bourbon and rye aged from young to 30 years old. to create just 273 bottles of Michter's Celebration. Every gold-etched bottle was waxed and sealed and included a hand-signed letter from Willie Pratt himself. Now, the retail or average price of this bottle is $22,950. So what is that difference? Yeah, $300 more, and you're only getting an 86 proof bottle of whiskey. That's insane for me to think about spending for a bottle of whiskey at 90 proof or 86 proof. All right, number 3, our top 3. What is this? I've never seen a bottle like this before. This is Old Rip Van Winkle Twisted Spoke 16-year-old straight bourbon. This is really cool looking. I guess this was a single barrel pick or something for a store. Let's read about it right here. The label design on this bottle is adamantly a far cry from most old Rip Van Winkle releases, but the quality of the liquid has cemented this bourbon's status as one of the most sought-after bottles in the bourbon space. Released as a one-off in partnership with Chicago bar Twisted Spoke, this bottle contains 16-year-old Stitzel-Weller bourbon. Now, it's pretty cool that we're looking at a older single barrel pick for a bar. That's really cool. This is average price is $29,634 and proofed at 103 proof. I think I did that math right for you guys. Really cool. Really cool. Number 3. Number 2. Now we're getting into the big boys right here. Old Rip Van Winkle, Pappy Van Winkle's Family Selection 23-year old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey with the glasses and the decanter. So this one kind of is cheating here with the glasses here, but distilled from a wheated bourbon recipe, Old Van Winkle, Pappy Van Winkle's Family Selection 23-year-old set a record in December of 2022 as the most expensive bottle ever sold at New York's Sotheby's auction house. The bottle, which sold for 17 times the pre-sale estimate of $3,000 to $4,000, fetched an impressive $52,000. Originally released in 2008, each bottle of Pappy Van Winkle's Family Selection 23-year-old was sold encased in a luxe black velvet bag. Now, that one sold for $52,000, but the average price of these sold was $34,358, and this doesn't even have a proof of 100 proof. That's really crazy to me. It's got a tasting notes of candy corn, vanilla, cherry, walnut, dark raspberry, and oak. And we already scrolled to see the number 1. So the number 2 was a 23-year-old. Number 1, we're looking at an Old Rip Van Winkle 25-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. That's absolutely insane to me to think that we had 25-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. But here we go. Launched in 2017, Old Rip Van Winkle 25-year-old is one of the most sought-after whiskeys in the world and was distilled in 1989 at the now-closed Van Winkle Family Distillery in Shively, Kentucky. There, it was aged from 1989 until 2002 when it was relocated to the Buffalo Trace Distillery after they acquired the label. At Buffalo Trace, it rested in its original casks until 2014 before it was moved into stainless steel tanks to prevent further aging. Just 11 barrels were distilled, amounting to 710 bottles, all of which are packaged in handmade glass decanters packaged in wood from the original oak. Now, the loss in that is absolutely insane. If you guys have any understanding of a barrel, when you first fill a barrel, you're getting anywhere from like 225 to 250 bottles, maybe even more, depending on how full you made that barrel. The loss on these is absolutely insane to me. They were probably getting 40 bottles. I'm probably doing that math wrong too. Anywhere from 40 to 80 bottles for the Old Rip Van Winkle 25-year. That's absolutely nuts. Now, the average price of this bottle, we're jumping all the way up to $52,888 with a proof of 100 proof. That's absolutely ludicrous. It's an absolutely beautiful box and bottle for sure. But I don't know if I'd ever spend that amount of money on a bottle of bourbon that I probably would never drink because I don't want to lose that amount of money on something and have a sip of that cost me $3,000, right? That's absolutely insane. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was a fun one for me to do to find out what the most expensive bottle ever was. I don't know if any of you knew what the most expensive bottle was, but we found out together. Make sure you guys drop that like, leave that comment down below on if you thought that this that bottle deserves that price. And make sure you smash that subscribe button. Check the Patreon link down below. Until next time, this has been Nathan with the Everyday Drinker. Cheers.